Hi, welcome to Paper 1 Question 4 Rosabel. So today you're mainly going to, having heard the text, write a Paper 1 Question 4 answer and look at a model answer. Quick reminder that a student said, I like the way the writer develops our sympathy, for example, and that can be interchanged with lots of other tasks such as makes us confused, brings characters to life, makes you feel as if you're there, shows the character's right to panic, or shows the character's reaction is extreme as examples of possible questions. Again, 20 marks, 4 to 5 basic paragraphs. So we're going to go to the world of an overworked shop girl in an Edwardian hat shop in London before the First World War, about 110 years ago. Try and imagine what you'd hear, see, feel physically and emotionally in that situation. This is the question. The important bits have a box around them. So you're looking at line 19 to the end, and the student said this part of the story, set in a hat shop, shows that the red-haired girl has many advantages in life, and I think Rosabel's right to be angry. To what extent do you agree? At the corner of Oxford Circus, Rosabel bought a bunch of violets, and that was practically the reason why she had so little tea, for a scone and a boiled egg and a cup of cocoa are not sufficient after a hard day's work in a hat shop. As she swung onto the steps of the bus, grabbed her skirt with one hand and clung to the railing with the other, Rosabel thought she would have sacrificed her soul for a good dinner, something hot and strong and filling. Rosabel looked out of the windows. The street was blurred and misty, but light striking on the panes turned their dullness to opal and silver, and the jewellers' shops seen through this were fairy palaces. Her feet were horribly wet, and she knew the bottom of her skirt and petticoat would be coated with black, greasy mud. There was a sickening smell of warm humanity. It seemed to be oozing out of everybody on the bus, and everybody had the same expression, sitting so still, staring in front of them. Rosabel stirred suddenly and unfastened the two top buttons of her coat. She felt almost stifled, though through her half-closed eyes the whole row of people on the opposite seat seemed to be resolved into one meaningless staring face. She began to think of all that had happened during the day. Would she ever forget that awful woman in the grey mackintosh, or the girl who tried on every hat in the shop and then said she would call in tomorrow and decide definitely? Rosabel could not help smiling. The excuse was worn so thin. But there had been one other, a girl with beautiful red hair and a white skin and eyes the colour of green ribbons shot with gold that they'd got from Paris last week. Rosabel had seen her carriage at the door. A man had come in with her, quite a young man, and so well dressed. "What is it exactly that I want, Harry?" she'd said, and Rosabel took the pins out of her hat, untied her veil, and gave her a hand mirror. "You must have a black hat," he had answered, "a black hat with a feather that goes right round it, and then round your neck and ties in a bow under your chin, and a decent sized feather." The girl glanced at Rosabel laughingly. "Have you any hats like that?" They'd been very hard to please. Harry would demand the impossible, and Rosabel was almost in despair. Then she remembered the big untouched box upstairs. "Oh, one moment, madam," she'd said. "I think perhaps I can show you something that will please you better." She'd run up, breathlessly, cut the cords, scattered the tissue paper, and yes, there was the very hat. Rather large, soft, with a great curled feather and a black velvet rose. Nothing else. They'd been charmed. The girl had put it on and then handed it to Rosabel. "Let me see how it looks on you," she said. Rosabel turned to the mirror and placed it on her brown hair, then faced them. "Oh, Harry, isn't it adorable?" the girl cried. "I must have that." She smiled again at Rosabel. "It suits you beautifully." A sudden ridiculous feeling of anger had seized Rosabel. She longed to throw the lovely perishable thing in the girl's face, and bent over the hat, flushing. "It's exquisitely finished off inside, madam," she said. The girl swept out to her carriage and left Harry to pay and bring the box with him. "I shall go straight home and put it on before I come out to lunch with you," Rosabel heard her say. So once again, this is the question. So, is Rosabel right to be angry about the red-haired girl's advantages, even if she has any, which we've yet to establish? Is there evidence that she has advantages? How does Rosabel's life compare? Is Rosabel's anger described? How? Is it justified? Don't forget you're using the petal structure. What's happening? How is it described, and why? I agree with the statement to an extent. The red-haired girl is described as having eyes the colour of that green ribbon shot with gold they'd got from Paris last week. This metaphorical language highlights almost magical, supernatural aura held by the girl. Most readers would associate the colour green with nature and tranquility, followed by a higher class expensive gold. Together these adjectives have the cumulative effect of displaying how even the girl's physical features are astounding and unique, with the writing having a sense of longing felt by Rosabel. Furthermore, the noun Paris is universally associated with romance and materialistic desires, further displaying the advantages the red-haired girl has in life. This strongly supports the statement. The statement also addresses the exquisite nature of the hat sought after by the girl. The hat finally charmed them is described as being rather large, soft, with great curled feather and a black velvet rose, nothing else. The list of adjectives emphasises how every aspect of the hat is perfect, from the hat itself to the feather and rose. By listing these, Mansfield creates a sense that the girl and Harry have very distinct tastes. As well as this, the fact that this hat is a big untouched box upstairs shows that only the best items please the girl. The adjective untouched connotes ideas of novelty and importance supporting the statement. Additionally, near the end of the extract, Mansfield describes the girl's actions as traditionally upper class and regal. The girl swept out to her carriage and left Harry to pay and bring the box with him. The past participle verb swept connotes the idea of delicate movement, that the girl is precious and so should be treated in that way. At the same time, the writer structurally juxtaposes the girl's carriage with Rosabel's experience of the sickening smell of warm humanity on the bus. This stark contrast further highlights the fact that the girl is better off than Rosabel. Some readers may argue that Rosabel is not right to be angry, as the girl is trying to be kind to Rosabel. It suits you beautifully, but it could be argued that this comes across as patronising and synthetic, somewhat supporting the statement. However, the statement fails to consider the fact that Harry would demand the impossible, and the girl had to go along with his requests. Mansfield displays the idea that the girl has little freedom of her own and is controlled by Harry, which could be argued to disprove the statement. Despite this, I believe the statement to be largely correct. So here are some ideas about things that you could write about based on the text and the model answer. She has beautiful eyes and hair and is being bought a beautiful hat and nice lunch, and she swept like somebody royal, so that would show that she has some advantages. However, she is quite polite and friendly, and she laughs, and she isn't unkind to Rosabel. In fact, she's told what to do by Harry, so perhaps she doesn't have all the freedom that she wants. Is Rosabel right to be angry? You could compare their lives, for example, their transport and their food. So don't forget you're using the petal paragraph structure. And these again are the objectives.